So this is my database on my local machine. So you can see here localhost 127.0.0.1. So that's the localhost server machine. And this is phpmyadmin. So this comes standard within cPanel, and most hosts should have phpmyadmin installed because it's simply the easiest way to interact with your data and be able to view your data, because you will need the ability to see content within your data. So you can set this up and access it through the cPanel. Just click phpmyadmin and it'll bring you over to the myadmin area. And then within here, if you go all the way to the database, you have the ability to create brand new tables. You also, if you go out one more level, you have the ability to create brand new databases. So here I've got my option to create a brand new database, so I can just do something like new data and just simply create that. And then I can go in here and I can start building and creating the table. So by default, what I'm going to do is first go, and this is going to start creating that first table. And then here, usually you have to, I usually do an ID, and I do an auto increment, and I set this as primary. And then here I can have another number, give it a value there, text info, and this I'm going to just set as a variable. So var characters you have to set up. So this one I'm just setting up 255, and I'm just going to call this 2, and I'm just going to leave it as text. So here I can save it, and this has created that brand new table for me, and I can open that up and I can start putting data into here. And I can see my structure of the table, and I can always add in additional rows or columns. So I can add that in, add 2 columns, and do it after a particular one. You also have the ability to do SQL queries. So if I want to create or select from first, I can select out whichever columns I want, and there's some basic SQL already set up in there. I can search through, I can insert. So if I want to insert some data into the database, I can simply do it by here. So the ID is going to automatically increment, so I don't have to worry about that. Here I can put whatever I want, go, and that's going to add that new entry. It also is going to show me the SQL query. So if I was writing a SQL query, and in my constructor language, if I needed to, once I do the database connection and I want to insert new data first, and this is how that would get inserted. You also have the ability to export out your data, so you can do a quick export or you can do a custom. Here we can simply view it as text, and I'm just going to do go, and there's a whole bunch of options there. So if I want to quickly transfer this over, I've got the SQL code here to create the table if it doesn't exist. So it's going to create first and do all of that ID 1, text info, and 2 as we had looked at in the previous lesson. And then also it's got that insert, so that same insert command, and with these two you can just pretty much rebuild that table completely. You also have the ability to import, so you can import different types of files. You can import zip files. You can also set up the different characters, do a partial import, format, so you can import CSV, XML, and this automatically will populate and again build out your database. You also have an option for privileges. You have an option here for operations, so if you want to move the table, copy the table, do some table maintenance, or simply delete it, you have some options there, and then tracking and triggers. This is a typical database within a MySQL database using phpmyadmin in order to access it. There's also software where you can pull that down and bring that down to your local machine to export it to Excel and so on. but most of the time you're going to find that you're going to be using something like phpmyadmin and interacting with your database online. Again, your database will typically hold all of that data and that information. So you can see here that one that I had added. So if I'm using a web interface and that's depositing data and information into my database, that's going to be all added here. Here I've got a typical WordPress setup here. So I've got my WordPress posts, I've got comments, I've got the users meta information, and so on. So this, again, this is how WordPress is going to look if you actually go into the database. And if you do need to copy data to and from different servers or pull that down onto your machine, you do have the ability for that export and import. Again, if you are using WordPress, they do have plugins for that, which are going to be a lot easier than using the backend PHP code here, the server MySQL phpmyadmin.